Okay, Shane, I was googling you to see what stuff I could dig up from the murky past, and I came across the Shane Reville Racing Consultants handicap hurdle back in 2007. So was that a service that you were providing to Victor Chandler and others alongside your punting?
Yeah, it was. And I remember the time I sponsored that race in the summer after I left, and it wasn't really got to do with anything to try and accrue new clients or that. I didn't know where the whole thing was going. I was very new to it, and I just thought it was prudent to put it out there. And if anything came of it, so be it. And if it didn't, I wasn't worried. I had a good contract with Chandler's. I was very happy. But it was more like drawing a line in the sand for me, that I was happy where I was, and that's what I was going to do. Whether I was being paid by someone or going alone. And I just felt it was the right thing to do to sponsor that race. It was actually quite funny. I had said to the lads the day before, I said, you know, the whole day was costing us a few quid. So I said, I'm going to back a horse in our race to cover the day and see how it goes. So Philip Rotwell had a horse in the race called What's Up Bob, and he'd ran well the first time in a handicap the previous day, over 2 mile on slow ground, and he was stepping up to 2.5 on good ground, and they put him in 16s, and I can remember it like it was yesterday, and I said, that's good enough for me. So there was a man in England who was looking after all my business at the time, and I rang him and I said, work away with this anyway. So it was a 6 or 7 to 1 shot by race time, and it held on. I think it won ahead. My horse called Carrick Galore, and so we're in the presentation after. I'm in there with a couple of the lads, and Philip takes the trophy off me. I said, geez, well done, Philip. He says, yeah. He says, I wouldn't mind. I was going to have a few quid in it. He said, someone took the price. I just said to him, you keep nothing quiet these days, Philip, and I walked off.
So was that the only time you sponsored?
Yeah. As I say to you, it wasn't something I was turning into a big series of races or anything. It was just something I wanted to do. It wasn't something I had to do. I just felt it was right to do something like that, that marked that I'd moved on, that's all.
And did you get much business from it?
There was not directly from that, no, and I didn't expect it now, to be honest with you, but I did have a couple of smaller clients in Ireland, not there, a bit further down the line. It always seemed to just run smoothly like that.
Yeah, well, and for anybody that didn't listen to the IC thing, I'm getting this information from that. You were accommodated, you mentioned that you knew Marmo, you're accommodated by Victor Chandler. So was that purely on a getting on as a reward for your information basis, or were they paying for your card?
No, I used to send them the tissue. That was separate. I was still on the same contract, and Marmo came to me one of the days and said, we'd be interested in looking after your business. So obviously they were getting it firsthand, and it was up to them then. What they were guaranteeing me my bet, and then I don't know what they were doing for themselves. Probably trying to back to win twice as much, maybe. I don't know, but I was very happy. It cut out all the middlemen from me. I was on, and they went and done their thing with it, and it worked for both of us. Until it got to a stage where I think they were just finding it difficult to get on to where they wanted to be, but it was great while it lasted. It was really good.
Yeah, I mean, because you mentioned earlier the guy that was sticking on for you in England, and you said work away with this, and it's gone from 16 into 7.
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't say that was all because of me now, but
no,
there is that snowball effect, isn't there?
Yeah, but what sort of level would you be? You know, what sort of level would they let you get on at, Victor Chandler?
From memory, and I'll stand corrected, I think it was a bet to win $3,000 maybe, in or around. I honestly don't remember, but that'd be standard enough, I'd imagine. Yeah, in around $3,000.
Okay, and were you helping other punters as well? Or is it just purely bookmakers you were?
At the time, no, couple of bookmakers and the two other smaller clients in Ireland were also bookmakers.
Okay, now you've mentioned about pricing a race. You've sort of answered it, but I ask everybody. So what would be the most important thing you're looking for? Nobody can explain how they do it. It's just something they've got that they can.
It's just a process. Everyone will have their own way of going about things, and everyone will use different criteria. People will use their speed figures, ratings, etc. I don't use them because I wouldn't have the skill set to implement a speed figure into what the price the horse should be. So it's of no use to me. But the stuff I do use, I understand, you know, and I prefer pricing the flat racing, if I'm honest, because there's a lot more layers and strands to that. The jumps racing is much simpler. So it is, from a tactical point of view, etc.
Right, so I'm just trying to. So you make something, you've got an 8-to-1 chance. So it's going to get beat 7 times.
Yeah.
What's got to happen so that it can win?
I suppose it's just the conditions on the day. As I said to you earlier, you might back horse A to win a race on Monday, and the following Monday could be a similar lineup, but different track, could be just a different race setup, different draws, and you will have learned something. Say if that horse gets beat the first 7 days, they're all building blocks into the horse's overall profile. So each time he's getting beaten, you're learning something about that horse as well. So on the day that he wins, you're putting all that new information together. So a horse that you wouldn't have backed maybe 6 months ago now becomes attractive under a certain set circumstances.
Okay, now is it something, if somebody 18 years old came to you and said, Shane, I'll pay you to teach me everything you know, is it a skill that you could teach somebody?
I think it would be easy to give someone a base. And the reason being, I think, is because they would obviously be interested. It's not like trying to teach a pupil in school French or maths and they've no interest in it. If they're coming to you asking for their help, they're already interested. So you have their attention. And it's like everything else. To be good at anything, like you have to be interested in it, and vice versa. They go hand in hand. You know, you just won't be good at something you've no interest in, even if the ability is there. So back to your question. Sorry, you could give someone a base to work off. I think you could do that with anyone, but just talent separates the average from the good. You know, talent will get you good, but it's the application then that gives you the consistency that leads to longevity, and longevity separates the elite from the good.
Okay.
So it's very hard to know when someone is starting out, in my opinion, how good they're going to be. You can see the talent there, and that'll get them so far, and then it's up to them if they want to crunch it then.
Okay, so when you were your first time at Paddy Powers and somebody asked you to price that race up and you priced it up to a massive margin.
I thought about getting my jacket and just leaving, to be honest. I was mortified of it. And you know what? I probably didn't really understand, even looking at it, what I was trying to get the first time I was doing it. It was embarrassing. It took me, as I say to you, that's all I can remember in there. It was so hard starting out.
But did somebody come then and say, look, Shane, this is where you ballsed up there. This is what you should have done. This is what you've done wrong.
Yeah. Kieran Burke was a great help to me in the trading room at the time. He would have been over me. He would have been essentially my boss. And then Charles Lee was the trading manager. So no, I got good help off them, and of course I was trying to learn as much as I could speaking Gaelic, and it just went from there. I was just too nervous and afraid to make a mistake. I had to learn not to be afraid to make a mistake.
And you weren't afraid to ask questions?
I had no choice. I had no choice. I wasn't going to learn anything otherwise.
Okay, right. Going to your personal punting now. This is, once again, I got this from the thing you did. You price your races up 48 hours before.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
declaration stage. Why'd you do that?
Well, it's a blank canvas, isn't it? Like, the declarations come out. There's no white noise, and blank canvas, start out, go through my processes, price them up, and that's my base for every meeting. The rest will follow in the next 48 hours, but that's what I'll work off then.
So you're not swayed by anything else, just your pure...
Well, of course you're going to be, like, information that goes around on the day of the meetings and all, but you can factor that in on the day or nearer the race, but I'll always go back to the prices before I make a decision on what I do.
Okay, now just one more question I've got here, because I don't understand it at all. I would never be able to do it in a million years. But so you mentioned you need to give punters a correct price.
Yeah.
So what makes something 300 to 1 and someone else 200 to 1?
Well, there'd be only about 0.15% or something in the difference of those prices.
I know, but there must be something that makes you think.
No, I'd say it'd be easier to tell you why something would be 25s rather than 100s. I think when you're 200 and 300 to 1, I think you wouldn't have much argument if they were both 500. Do you know that's
Yeah.
So
it's going to take an act of God for either of them to win.
Yeah, I think if there was a slight difference in that, it might just come down to maybe the jockey or maybe possibly SPs that went off in previous races. So, but that'd be minute. It could just come down to connections. But I think the difference between a 25 to 1 shot and a 100 to 1 shot is obvious enough, but it would just be their profile and, again, where the horses are coming from and what stage they're at. Like the 100 to 1 shot is probably going to be more exposed than the 25 to 1 shot. They might have similar ability, but you won't find that out for maybe another 3 or 4 runs. So you can't be going 100 to 1 about a horse that you don't know enough about.
Okay, is the worry that the price might
it
change the
could go
plans of the connections?
It would depend on the race. Like if it's a horse that's only ran twice and he's having a third run and it's maiden hurdle and he's showing on, there probably will be 200 to 1. But I'm saying maybe horses just starting out in handicaps or whatever. You're not going to put them in 100 to 1 because the way you look at it is, if you're going to lay it, you'll lay 25 about certain horses. There's no need to be 100.